take it one day at a
John,
time.
are there any policies I have to follow related to videotape hearings and everything?
No, it's a lot of public meetings.
I understand, but I want to
Right,
make
there's
sure.
nothing, we just follow the usual
Okay,
agenda that we have, nothing important,
okay.
that you have to change.
You don't want to do that quarterback round.
Okay, it is 7:30. At this time, I will call the August 19, 2014 Board of Zoning and Building Appeals meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Stewart,
Here.
Mr. Day, Mr. Rosato,
Here.
Mr. Ritchie,
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Move to excuse Mr. Day?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Rosato,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Turn our attention to the approval of the minutes of the July 15, 2014 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of July 15.
Second?
I guess that happened.
There's an extra
Yes, I'll second
Discussion,
It's okay.
corrections.
I don't get shortchanged. I'm good.
You should. We can move it on.
None.
right?
You can take.
Roll
this
call,
one, sit over
please.
there.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Rosato,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Groff, any correspondence, communications we need to know about at this point?
None.
Okay, at this time, I would ask anyone wishing to participate in the meeting this evening to answer "I do" to the following. I swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Takes us to old business, that being case number 5-2014. John Lutz, 840, is it Lutz or Lutz? John Lutz, I'm sorry. John Lutz, 548 Dog Leg Road, related to code 1157.02 permitted uses, or 1157.03 conditional uses, 1157.06 yard setbacks. This was tabled at the last meeting. Is there a motion to bring it from the table?
I make a motion to bring back to table. 1157 and 1157-03 and 1157-06.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Rosato,
it. Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
And this time, we will consider case number 5-2014. Mr. Lutz, you have the floor to kind of bring us back up to date on your situation.
These are the copy of the same plans that we looked at last time. First of all, I want to thank the committee for hearing this case again tonight, especially those of you that were able to meet or correspond with me in the month in between. Mr. Roberts apologized that we weren't able to make connection, but hopefully I'll be able to be articulate enough to explain the case here and my requests. What you see in front of you is the site plan for the property previously owned by the Humane Society. And what I'm requesting, I want to do some alterations to the current building, which would require approval of a variance in the form of the setbacks. As you know, this property currently has a required 30-foot setback, and so on the side that I share with the city, I'm requesting a 28-foot variance because that is the building is pretty much right up against the lot line now. On the other side, I think there's currently about a 4-foot distance between the property line and the existing building, and if I'm able to be approved for the variance, the new construction would put the new building 14 foot off of that lot line. And then in the rear, for future expansion and possibly a pool building on the site, I'm requesting a 20-foot variance that would bring then it into a 10-foot setback. Also, I'm requesting a conditional use. The plan is to demolish the cinder block part of the existing building, and on that slab, put the new building on, and eventually open a baseball card shop with my son. So baseball cards, sports memorabilia. You'll also see, I'd like to just respond quickly to, as you know, that the county commissioners have raised a list of reservations, I guess you would say, that they had. So I'd just like to go through those, and then if I've got anything wrong, I think Mr. Bub will be able to correct me here. But the first item was that the setbacks were unreasonable. You know, the building, the existing building that would not be renovated is where it is. So, you know, and that's the line that I share with the city. It's been my impression that the city doesn't have any issue with that particular piece. The lot line that I share with the county dog shelter would actually improve the situation, because I would be moving the building 14 foot off of that lot line. You know, I think that granting of the variance would allow that property to improve some. As far as the encroachment issue goes, I've begun putting in a fence as a good faith measure that I intend for my activity to stay on my side of the fence and not infringe upon any of their activity. Unfortunately, I ran out of fence, and it's 7-foot fence, and everybody either has 6 or 8 foot. So it's not going to stay the way it is. It's on order from Home Depot. Third item, not enough parking. Again, I'd just like to submit to you that these plans were professionally done. The part of the building that would anticipate being used as the retail space, the parking was calculated based on that the square footage that would be under roof of the retail space and conforming to that formula and those guidelines. As far as vehicle traffic, you know, one of the things I'm proposing, you know, I'm a working man, so the amount of time that once this operation down the road was ready to roll, I would anticipate 10 hours or less a week. And so one of the things, I want to thank the folks from the Humane Society for coming tonight. And I guess one of the quick questions that I would have for you is, when you were using this site, how many hours a week were you in operation?
The only day of the week we were closed was Wednesday. We were open to the public every day at noon. 2 nights a week, that was until 6 p.m. 1 night a week, that was till 7 p.m. On the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we were open noon to 4. Now, we had staff there starting at 8 o'clock in the morning every day, but open to the public starting at noon every day except Wednesday until 6 or 7.
So considerably more than what I'm proposing here. And then secondly, with those hours of operation, can you talk a little bit about the traffic flow and how that might have infringed upon the work of the dog shelter next door? Or because that seems to be one of the issues that was a concern that was brought to the table, that my activities would create so much flow that it would, you know, it would disrupt their activity.
Well, first of all, Dogleg Road doesn't have any activity on it other than
Occasional dump truck.
the pound, the old Humane Society, and the city building, and then there's some houses way at the back of that, and there's really rarely traffic to go down the road. So it's not like it's a high traffic area to begin with. We actually did, I mean, we had a lot of customers coming and going, and we never received complaints from animal control.
Seems like every time I'm over there mowing grass, somebody still thinks you're in operation,
Yeah.
so I send them down the road.
Yeah, so, I mean, we, I think, partnered very effectively on that. We didn't get complaints that our customers were in there parking or that their animals were on our property, our animals were on their property. We were able to keep that, you know, fairly separate and cooperative.
Working relationship.
Yeah, I think I've addressed the other concerns that were brought to the table last time. So I guess with that, I would just ask questions about the proposal or the plans that you have in front.
Mr. Roberts, do you have questions?
Not yet.
Mr. Rosado?
I don't know.
Mr. Ritchie?
No questions, just a comment. I was one of the people that visited the site, and I must commend Mr. Lutz's improvement of the site. It could be a real eyesore to the community, but the work that he's done to improve it, tearing down, tearing out, and plans on the table, I think would enhance an unusual property in the city of Heath. This is my comment.
Are there other individuals wishing to speak in favor of this variance?
Well, as the Humane Society.
I'm sorry, could you?
I'm
give me your
Lori
name,
Carlson, I'm
please?
the
Thank
director
you.
of the Licking County Humane Society. I agree with you wholeheartedly that that building was in, I mean, we had lived in it for 50 years, so it was in very difficult, worn down condition. So I think it's very admirable, the amount of work that's already been put into it, and the proposal to, and being a citizen of Heath myself, I agree with you. I think it can only improve the quality of that building. It was very run down, and I think we're very excited that he has been able to take a building that means a lot to us and turn it into something that's going to contribute to the community.
I agree with you and you agree with me, but when I looked at the site and walked the property lines, I'm not a surveyor by any means, but I believe that his property extends to almost past the second gate of the city lines. And if he wasn't a sincere individual who was trying to work with us, and I also understand there's a grandfather clause, if you use something long enough, it can get into the, you can't change it. But his property actually goes to the middle of the gate on the road that the city uses, but he's willing to roll with that. You know, he's not putting a fence up, making the trucks drive around or change the fence, so that's another thing I forgot to mention.
May I ask one thing? Anyone who hasn't signed in yet, could you please sign in on the signature sheet? Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Just sign me in, Rick.
Okay. But did you want to speak in favor or?
Rachel?
Yeah, I'm on the board of Humane Society. And I would say the tax base that the improvements will bring to the city will come in extra revenues to you. Plus, if there's anybody working on staff there that gets employed, you'll have extra taxes. We're happy to have our new building and we're happy it's in Heath too. So thank you for letting us be here.
Any other individuals wishing to speak in favor? Please, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim Bubb, County Commissioner, 107 Isabel Road in Newark. I don't want the county to be characterized as being opposed to Mr. Lutz. I don't know, I didn't have a chance to read your minutes from the July meeting, but we came here, and Jim, I don't think you were here at the last one, but I think we had a chance to talk to the other members of the group. We just brought some concerns and some things that we wanted to share, and we thought at least deserved discussion before you move forward. That was all. I gave you that list. I think that list is a matter of record. Maybe Jimmy didn't see it. I have a copy of the list if you want it. But we were, the setbacks are tight. We get that. But, honestly, at the end of the day, if the city of Heath doesn't have a problem with them as close as they are to your property, they're not nearly as close to the county property in terms of the setbacks. That doesn't really, honestly, at the end of the day, make any difference. I would also say this, Mr. Lutz, he's improved the property. I mean, he's clearly made it, and this is a visible piece of property in the city of Heath on a state highway and on a major city route, and it is seen. And no offense to the Humane Society, but he's done some cleanup on the site. I mean, he really has, and I believe he's going to knock down part of the building, and eventually, when I don't mean to speak for you, but when your finances permit, when you can do it, you're talking about doing an addition on the site as
The
well.
plans for putting the metal building back on the slab once the cinder block is gone are ready to roll.
So you're ready to go. We see it as an improvement, and we see Mr. Lutz as potentially a good neighbor. So, I mean, I don't want to characterize that somehow we came here being negative. I hope we didn't come across as negative last month when we talked to you about it. But we did have some concerns just because, really through no fault of his own, even though he obviously knew it going in, it's a tight site. Even when we all looked at it, the question is, what can you really do with that site? It's very limited. But on the other hand, someone will do something with the site, so I would rather be a positive for the city of Heath and look positive for people want to come to Heath and do business and buy Honda cars and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. My only concern, I guess I'll just let it go at that, Mr. Chairman, and maybe John Silva, who is our animal control officer there and actually lives in our building, well, didn't live there, but he his office is there, I'm sorry. But the only concern we had was the limited retail use that was proposed. And did you go past that, Mr. Lutz, or are you still talking about the variance for limited retail? Because that's when we had talked.
That's still in the proposal.
Okay, because that's when we talked about, whether, the can of worms that opens is if you just say, okay, now it's got a retail application, that, our questions were, does that continue if it's sold? It's now a retail location. If you start leasing some of those little building spaces, are they retail with only 3 parking places? With all due respect, it's still a challenge site with limited parking. Now, I know what you're saying. You're talking about a baseball card shop with you and your son. I know, I'm sure you'd like to have lots of business, but I don't think we're talking about thousands of cars here. So it probably is not a big deal, Mr. Chairman, but it is a limited site. And when you officially say it is now retail without going through the zoning question or anything else, then you've added a new dimension to that site that didn't exist before. But I mean, just from my personal standpoint, I don't think the county is going to be injured by moving forward. And I will compliment Mr. Lutz publicly in front of you. I think that he's improved the site. And I think he's trying to do the best he can with a limited site that, there aren't a lot of options for him. I think he's trying to do something positive. So that's where I'm at. John, did you have anything?
I of course agree with the sentiments of the commissioners. I know it's unanimous as the board concerned about the usage. And just for helping the board maybe, because when we looked at the drawings last time, people were trying to put their eyes around. I just made a set of them, the actual photos regarding what the property looks like at this point, in case it might help you.
Let me, Tim brought up a good point I'd like to address for a second. With the conditional use variance, which is being asked for tonight, it's conditional being that the person requesting the variance is the only one that can use it.
Okay,
So it's in his name only.
gotcha.
If this property were leased out to someone else, they would have to come back and ask for another conditional use variance. Or should you want to change the use of it, you would have to go before.
So at least we have the conversation.
Yes, that's a very good point you brought out. I'm glad you did. It's specifically for the one person that's asking for it.
Well, based on that, Mr. Chairman, the county doesn't oppose as a neighbor and neighboring property, we don't oppose the improvement. In fact, we wish Mr. Lutz good luck. Might even come over and look at his baseball memorabilia. And I would urge you to support it and give him the variance.
As we look at these pictures, if I may, on the right side of the fence, picture that with 8 feet demolished. And that's where the 14 feet comes in to get to the rear section, which there would be ample parking at this time. Would he have to have a variance to put a pole building on that back area?
If you were to put a pole building on, yes, you would.
Okay.
The variance is just being for the structure that you're building now.
Yes.
So if we had a parking problem, you can, I can see
It's a beautiful place.
that when that's torn down,
Yeah, that's all.
and you can get through there, it won't be that tight, and you get to the spaces in the back, there's no parking.
Can't do much with it.
Parking is not an issue.
Others, Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, I apologize for being a little bit behind everybody else. It sounds like maybe this has reached some sort of equilibrium that everybody can live with. But, John, question to you, could a variance have even a contingency that would be more restrictive than just the general business, that it could be used specifically for what Mr. Lutz is asking for, but only that?
Yes.
Or do we, so it could be conditional use for the purpose of sports memorabilia?
Not a liquor store.
Right.
Or skill games.
Or skill,
Right.
right. The
That's
conditional
some
use,
circus.
the condition means it's a very specific
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
And for a very specific person. So if it were approved tonight, you would only be approving it for Mr. Lutz's use and only for sports paraphernalia use.
Okay, and that would need to be part of our motion then.
Yes.
So it feels like a blanket rezoning if you just say conditional use, and I know that, I don't think that's what you're asking for, and I think that's what you're concerned about. So if we can tidy this thing down and lock it in, then I think maybe it works to everybody's advantage.
Unlimited retail kind of made us a little skittish.
And again, 3 parking spaces wouldn't work for just.
Exactly. That's the point.
Does that, if we were to do that, John, does that work for you as well? Okay.
I think it's, am I right that this is zoned agricultural?
Yes, this is A2.
And the time and the spot zoning and the whole Pandora's box on that. It'll be agricultural, not in this century. I won't say never, but I'd like to, but it's not gonna be agricultural.
Agricultural nowadays is a fill-in zoning. If you don't have anything else that's good, you just zone it agricultural to hold it.
You
Until
grow
some,
grass.
right, exactly. for
So
something
protect.
Yes,
So
Has to be something.
yes, yes.
Mr. Droff, I don't want to muddy the waters any further than we have, but do we have any landscaping issues we have to deal with here if we were to make that a commercial establishment?
No, the landscaping goes only with B3, B1, B2 business districts for this part, or some industrial. But it's not applied in agriculture.
But if we give the variance for the purpose of a commercial activity, do we have an issue?
No, only if you require it in your variance.
Okay,
If you don't require it in your variance, it's not required by the A2 zoning district.
thank you. Other questions or discussion, gentlemen? You're okay? Mr. Ritchie, are you?
fine.
Then at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve case number 5-2014.
I make a motion that we approve case number 5-2014 for John at 5848 Bellway Road
Do you want to put the condition?
for the conditional use of retail space, which is what, 1157-03, for a baseball card shop only. Are there any other?
Setbacks.
Well, he said also sports memorabilia.
And sports memorabilia.
Setback.
And the setbacks, help me with that one.
The setback variance, how do you remember?
Just put as per, maybe as per the plan submitted.
Can you say that to someone? If you
Okay,
want.
as per the plan submitted to the board.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Can I just say something here for the sake of the audience? When a motion's made, it's always motion and positive. So if you're voting against it, you can say a real no. And so that's why I always make a motion and positive.
Good Robert's rules of order. Good job.
Just,
Further discussion?
just to make sure we're all clear, because I think there was maybe a real question. This would also then be granting a rear lot setback as requested on the drawing for potential future expansion.
You could do that at this time as well, or if not, it could-
Because we referenced the drawing and it's shown on the drawing, I think
Correct.
we
then you should
would
do it for this time.
Does his property line that intersects with our county's equipment's gate, that's just grandfathered in, they'll be able to use that perpetuity? You saw the lot line
Yes.
where it's on the asphalt now.
Mhm.
Well, he can't build a fence there, he'd shut us out. Just about, we'd have to move the gate and.
He has the authority, if he owns the property, to do just that at any time he uses. And if that were the case, it's the city's fault that the entrance to the street department is where it is. I mean, we established that condition, we imposed it on ourselves. So if he were so inclined to do that in the future, it would be our responsibility to relocate the entrance on our property.
So should we put that also with the setbacks that,
I don't know if you can do that.
No.
That's something, this might muddy the water a little bit, but the variances that he's asking for as far as setbacks go, the two side yard variances apply to the existing building, and then the rear yard applies to the future building that's proposed. You may want to include the side yard setbacks for the future building as well. It looks like it would be 10 feet, so it would be a 20-foot variance on either side of that building as well.
Can you summarize everything in regard to that?
The setbacks that he's asking for the future building is a 10-foot setback or a 40-foot setback variance, so it can be 10 feet off the property line in the back. And then the two sides for the future building is a 20-foot variance, so he can be, according to this, 10 feet off of each side for the future building.
we should clean it up for us all.
And then there's the existing building, which he's asking for a 16-foot variance on one side. So it can be 14 feet off of the side yard. And then on the other side, it's an 18-foot variance, so it could be, or no, a 28-foot variance, so you can be 2 feet off the property line. So there's two separate buildings. He's getting.
I'm with you.
Are you, is everyone here fairly clear about what we're discussing?
I think it's kind of like whatever's on the plan.
Yeah, whatever.
You're comfortable with those setbacks?
Setbacks on the plan.
Because I'm relying on you and Chip for
No,
that
I
input.
mean,
It makes
as
sense.
stated, it makes sense.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
Comfortable, yeah.
the two side yard setbacks for the
Yeah.
future building aren't written in the, or in the.
So we need
agenda.
additional,
So it would be an addition to this.
Just make the side setback for the sides be just the entire side boundary.
I think per plan is perfect.
plan.
Is it
No,
1156?
We can do it.
Is 1156 setback?
It's all word. It's all word.
Seven.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
1157 pertains to all the pertains to setbacks.
For all the setbacks.
That's for the side.
The center
only
built with
some.
carpet.
Mary's
adopted her.
I think it'd be better just stating
Built with carpet.
That's it.
all setbacks per plan, plus the use restricted to the conditions that Jim already
So
expressed.
will this plan be in the file, or do we need to reference the author of the
It will be
plan?
part of the file.
Can we just write the minutes to reflect all of this? I can work with them. Okay, just so they can find them. This is-
With you.
another question.
The water somebody now.
We're setting up variances for existing construction. The plan only indicates a potential development, not an actual, or a potential structure, not an actual structure.
Which John said he builds a building back there, he'd need a variance anyway.
Right, well, we really have two sets of variances as far as setback goes. The
Okay,
variances for redevelopment of the original building,
building.
that's the first set. Then for a proposed building, which would also need variances, we're proposing variances for the setbacks as well for
He's
that
just
building.
getting those out of the way.
Yeah, so that he doesn't have to come back here at some time in the future and do that.
And we're saying that they're defined on this drawing as
Per
part,
plan.
yeah, per plan on this drawing as part of the motion.
Yeah, the dimensions are very specific here.
So if we grant this,
Mhm.
we are in essence at least telling him any future construction, new construction, would have to be within the confines of those setbacks.
Yes.
Are we better off leaving that alone and only dealing with the existing construction and then dealing with any sort of setback if new construction should happen to occur?
If
Or
the
am I
board
making
is
any
so
sense?
inclined to approve it tonight, you would be inclined to approve it in the future, I guess, unless
Yes.
some other situation came up.
Mr. Chairman, do you see a reason why we should not address it tonight? Don't know why we wouldn't address it tonight, that's why I'm asking. I mean, because we have a document in front of us that's very exacting and specific about what we're looking for, or what he's asking, requesting. I mean, if this is referenced in the meeting minutes, then, I mean, unless you're saying that you have a problem with this piece, and it's going to potentially muddy up the waters with this piece.
My concern, and it could be invalid, and if so, I need to know that, is, and I mean no disrespect, but if I give a yes vote to create those variants or those setbacks without knowing the style of structure that's going on there or type of structure,
I see.
anything could go within that footprint, if I'm understanding
Well,
correctly.
but your day in court would be when he comes for the variance to put a pink building there with neon lights on it.
But if he builds it within the confines of those setbacks,
He still needs our approval.
is that the case?
We're only approving the setbacks, you're not approving the style of the building or anything like that.
But let's assume that it fits within the code, or however. If those setbacks are put there, that building can be constructed, he never has to come back here, correct?
That's correct. As long as he constructs within the confines of the setbacks established.
Yes.
He cannot exceed them at any
You
time.
know where I should build it.
So then, since we're granting, or potentially granting, this for the purposes of a baseball that word, thank you. Then does that same restriction apply to future construction
The use?
use?
Yes, yes. And only one person can have that use. That was part of the proposal.
And also, it does designate it's only a one-story building, so it's not like we can put.
Okay, I'm just asking.
No,
it's a good
it's a good question. I mean,
So if that becomes storage for this business activity here, are we in compliance or out of compliance?
You're in compliance as long as it's associated with that business.
Okay, okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. Could be some other storage for,
Right, he could not use that, rent it out as a separate business. That is not allowed.
I see.
That's a good one.
I'm done. Anything else, gentlemen?
Sure.
I think. Mr. Rich, you have the motion on the floor that right now deals only with the existing structure. Are you willing to expand that?
I think if I did, I don't remember memory still me. I think I changed it by advice to per plan for the setbacks on 115706,
Including the proposed building.
including the proposed building.
Is there a second?
I-
Okay, you seconded it, I wasn't, I'm sorry. Any further discussion?
one,
Yes.
that is, my concern is, which I was voiced last month, and so I want to restate this or underscore it, is that I'm in total, I mean, I understand, you know, what we have and what's being proposed, and I'm in favor of the actual overall, almost redevelopment of the site. What I'm worried about is we're taking a A2 zoning district and applying enough variances to it to change into a commercial district. It's not a commercial district, I know it's not, but we are almost rezoning, pseudo rezoning this. Do you see an issue if this is granted that it could potentially be a problem for this board in the future?
I don't, because of the conditions that have been implied in the recommendation. And this would be a terrible candidate for rezoning, just as a point of fact here, that would be it's too small to rezone, and you wouldn't want to rezone it. But specifically to answer your question, I think that the restrictions that are clearly stated would control that.
So if there's an infill lot along, you know, 30th Street or 79, or it doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't really work. Someone can go back and retain to this and say, oh.
Anyone can do that at any time. You can always go back and say, well, you had something similar to that. And it would be on the shoulders of the board to either agree to disagree and argue the point. I mean, that always exists. And I couldn't deny that it would happen sometime in the future. You know, it's always a possibility, the word precedence. But, you know, with something like this, there are very specific situations that apply. Those same situations would have to apply to the same degree in order to use the word precedence again in the future.
Are there many properties that you're aware of along those, let's say, commercial corridors that could potentially fall?
There are probably a few. Yes.
But not a lot.
No.
A few that would actually be zoned something different.
Well, I look at South 30th or South 30th Street, for instance, where Dr. Smith's veterinary clinic used to be.
Right.
I mean, that's not that different from this. It's a much bigger piece of property.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. There are a few in the city. You can't escape.
Go ahead.
Are we prepared to vote?
I hope so.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Rosato,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins.
Yes.
Mr. Luce, after a lot of discussion,
3 hours worth.
it has been approved. Mr. Groff will fill you in on the process from this point forward.
There is a 1 week review period before a permit can be issued. After 1 week. Tim, thank you for your input. Thank you, guys.
The next committee meets.
Planning Commission probably. Planning Commission meets next week.
Oh,
And
thank
we
you for
can push on
letting me
planning.
know. We're just really appreciate
Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Meeting at that same
Do you have anyone?
By the way,
I have an extra plan.
If you want to, I can.
I'm saying that this one is like,
The planning commission reviews all development plans.
see,
There's not a lot to do.
It's code.
We can bring this before them and say they weren't able to do this, if you like. It won't be like
Do you need that copy?
Yes, if we could.
Do you need a contour?
Yes.
That as well.
If you want these back, if you want these back, I'll just give them back.
I have 5 minutes. Thank you.
John, are you ready to move ahead?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we will continue with the meeting, please. If I could bring people to order, please.
as of 19.
Thank you.
95% of the people.
We will now turn our attention to new business, that being case 8-2014. On behalf of Kyle Retzlaff, and I apologize if I messed that name up. 1008 Forest Hills Road, a variance to 1159.06 side yard setback variance.
Mr. Retzlaff is not here tonight. Probably was confused about whether or not he should attend the meeting, but I think I can speak for him on his behalf. He recently purchased the house at 1008 Forest Hills Road. The house was built in 1985. When it was built, the contractor did not meet the proper side yard setbacks. This is a two-story house, which would be on this particular side 10 feet. The house is only 7.5 feet from the property line. When they did the mortgage survey, this house has been sold 3 or 4 times since then. This was never discovered when they did the previous mortgage surveys. This time, when Mr. Retzlaff purchased the house, they discovered, oops, we've got a problem. So what he would like to do, and the board has done this on many occasions, is just make the property legally compliant by authorizing a 2.5-foot side yard variance for that side of the property. That would make it legally non-conforming.
Do you know what the opposing side setback is? Side.
The house on the other side?
No. You have 7.5 feet on one side. Do we know what the other side?
It's really big. On the other side, it's really big. I would say probably about 30 feet because there's a little drainage creek. So I'd say good 30 feet.
So is it,
30 feet.
if you were to, if you had the sum width of the 2 side yard setbacks, is that number in compliance?
Yes, it exceeds the requirement. Yes.
Got it.
Any further questions?
So the motion would be to allow a 2.5-foot variance to the north side of the property to make it legally non-conforming.
There's no chance that you'll move the house.
I don't think so.
Is there anyone here to speak to this? I'm assuming not, but we'll check.
Roger, you sure you don't?
The letters went out to all the people in the surrounding houses, and none of them showed up, so I always vote with that.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, do you need me to state this?
To approve case 8-
And he could grant a
2014.
2.5 foot, well, was there, 2.5 foot, variance to side yard, setback as stated in 1159.06.
If that'll satisfy the bank, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Rosado,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins.
Yes.
You don't have to go through everything. No one's here. That will take us on to case 6-2014, Hinder Honda 1515 Hebron Road, 1187.07C, 1187.092B3, 1187.09 on-site directional signs. Mr. Hinder or Mr. Kessler?
Hello, I'm Roger Kessler, and I have the one and the only John Hinder with us tonight.
Be nice now, Roger.
So, well, I've got some pictures on the site. This is the current Honda sign right
John,
here.
that's Cardinal Automotive.
Oh.
Yes, both of them.
By the way, this is a Honda, this is, the building's 15 years old. We all did this, and back 15 years ago. Honda has changed their signage program, and this is to keep us compliant with our franchise with them. And this is their new signing package, which we have to, figure out how to make happen.
It's a rebranding thing that kind of breaks my heart when these companies go through the.
Yeah, right.
Deal with it.
Fills your wallet.
But anyway, this is the current sign, freestanding sign that says Honda. It's in between the trees here. It's a little more of a blow up of that current sign. Down here is the used car sign. And in the, down that road,
Foxborough.
this is the current directional sign. It's darn near invisible. And there's just some other pictures of the site. It's currently on Foxborough. And this is if you're exiting the property. Would be on the north end of the property. So, what we're requesting is the new Honda logo sign, which is identical to the current one.
Size-wise?
Size-wise, and it's going right back in the same spot. Matter of fact, we're using the same structure. The pre-owned sign, which will right here, very close to the existing.
Same size again?
Actually, this one is similar in size. If you square this part out, it's 8 by 8. The current one is 6 by 10. So in essence,
If they took off the word certified, and they're calling pre-owned cars, so that whole certified branding is to be eliminated.
this one will be a slightly higher than the existing one. This is overall height of 13 feet.
What's the existing?
5.5 feet.
And how does that come out of compliance, John?
You're only allowed one freestanding sign frontage along that. And what else do you have there?
And what's the maximum height?
Why don't you just have Eddie review exactly?
Yeah.
what that's about?
You said it was 13 feet tall?
Yes.
It's pretty similar to the
It's just to
powerhouse.
allow the one regarding the on-site directional signs. They're supposed to be limited to 2 square feet and 3 feet in height. That's obviously bigger, so they need a variance to allow it to be as proposed. Then the second one is to allow for the main sign to be installed, since the old one's getting taken down, new one's going up. That's coming into compliance again, or get a variance. And then the third one is to first off allow for another sign to be placed on the
You're
lot.
only allowed one.
Yeah, and then to allow it to be 13 feet. Again, mine sign only allowed to be 12 feet. So
So we've already allowed by variance the existing one.
yeah, but since they're taking them down, the new ones, they have to come into compliance again
It's
or
legally not
get variance.
It's only good for the existing.
Yeah.
So going from the existing to the proposed new for the second sign, what's the height change?
Just the-
5 of these is 7.5 feet difference. I think that's right. 5.5.
But very similar to the other side.
Yeah, size-wise, it's in all practicality the same.
right now.
But the area of the sign, at least for the directional sign,
Directional
It's much
signs
larger.
is a little bit larger, but as I showed you in the picture, the current one you can't even see, so it's almost a non-event. And the whole idea of the directional signs is to direct people into the facility. He's currently in the process of expanding his auto detailing and body shop and you gotta get the traffic through there. And you know that kind of a residential street to begin with, to some degree. And whole idea is, and we're even at the Honda kind of points out where they want these signs. But the one sign for this directional, John, I've been looking at it, and there's a lot of utilities in there, and we're thinking about moving it, still have the 5-foot setback, but move it back on the hill at the far end of the property, so as you're coming down the street, it becomes more visible and directs the people into the facility.
So if you moved it up on top of the hill,
Yeah.
even at its current size, the visibility would naturally increase.
No, it won't, because of all the trees. If we move it back up on the hill, but further down the road, on the other side of the driveway, then it's really visible. You can really see it. And it, the visibility coming out of the development, the sign at that point becomes invisible almost to them, which is a good thing. That make sense?
And Mr. Hinder, all of these are in order to comply with your franchise agreement?
Yeah, they're calling it Generation 3. We're gonna have to change some of the things on the building too. We gotta do a lot of things. This is the first step of the process. And we don't own these signs. We have to lease them. And it's an expensive thing for us, but it's also just, it's what they want us to do. You know, it's part of their branding. The certified word itself has been removed, and this says Honda pre-owned on it. That's what it says. And that's the real reason they want to eliminate. We still have certified cars, but they want to change it's like lower level and basement, you know? It's the same kind of concept. I will tell you the signs on the power side, the Powerhouse store, they're pretty similar because we have the brand sign from the store and then the tall monument sign by the entrance from the 79 entrance. That's been done 10, 11 years ago. It's about the same thing.
Gentlemen, other questions? Anything else, gentlemen, before a motion is made? Is someone ready to make a motion?
Go for it.
Okay, I make a motion to approve case number 6-2014 for Hinder Honda, 1515 Hebron Road. Variance number to change is 1187-07 C and 1187-09 or 0.9 to B 3 on directional signs 1187.09.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? Roll call, please.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Rosado,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Droff.
There's a 1-week appeal time. At the end of 1 week, and we can get your sign. They look very attractive. And one thing I'd like to say too is John is expanding his business. So if you look at the scale of the business, the scale of the signs are more commensurate, I think, with.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty significant expansion, so you'll get,
One other thing I didn't bring up, John started out with 30 people, now he has 130 people. And that's pretty darn amazing. We need about 10 more of those businesses in town.
Good for the
Yeah,
John.
the community's been good to us, really. And thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Then we will move to case
Thank you.
7-2014, People's Bank, 1066 Hebron Road. variance to 1187.092B2 and 1187.092B3 related to an existing monument sign replacement. Mr. Kessler again.
Okay. These are different.
It is on choice.
Here's the site plan. Here, 79, it's the other side street. Yeah. The current sign, which most of you have seen.
This is the Ohio Heritage Bank.
Yes.
Is that the old Kruger?
Across the street.
Which, I know I have. So what we're planning on doing, they are planning, like to put up the People's Bank logo sign and electronic message center. Now, electronic message center, they're not going to do that for probably another year. They just recently acquired this bank. I think there's 6 locations. So they're trying to just kind of get their arms around everything before they go out there. But ultimately, that's the plan. And this is, oh, there's the bank sign. Knew we had a picture of it. This is the current sign, and what we want to do is put up a sign similar to this, or just like this, with the opportunity at some other point in time, say a year from now, put an electronic message center so they can let people know what's going on in the bank. And here it is going the other direction. Here's what it would look like. Just with People's Bank logo. And there is from distance with electronic sign. And here it is without it. So that's what we're requesting. The setback would be 5+ feet, which I think will meet the code. And the only issue we have is
There were 2 issues. One was in the B3 district, the only 2 types of signs that are allowed is either a pedestal or a monument sign. I'm not sure exactly what category this would fall into, but I'm assuming it wasn't either of them, so I was just saying they needed a variance to install that instead of one of those 2. And then the other one was just to allow for the increase in the height to 15 feet versus 12 feet. Of the line of code.
And then is there a third one for the electronic part?
No, that comes later.
That's later.
That'll be a later discussion. So we will need to act on that part tonight.
yeah, we're not.
Okay.
But the reason we're designed the sign the way we are, at some point in time, we know we want to probably do that, just don't know when. They will also do an incredible job of landscaping underneath the sign. So once the whole thing is completed, it'll look like a monument sign because all that area under there will be landscaped. They do a wonderful job with pride themselves on their landscaping and what their property.
I don't think so, but the 15 feet won't put any blockage to any other signs. You know, we shut down Big Boy some years ago because they wanted to build a skyscraper sign.
No, as a matter of fact, looking at the sign, well, of course, until the digital sign would be installed, you've actually got better visibility underneath it.
Yeah, we're quite a ways back.
Yes, so I don't see any
You can get
sign.
2 or 3 cars
Site
in there
distance
pretty
problem.
easy.
Yeah, I don't see a site problem.
I don't think that street has that many cars to begin with.
And there's no right-of-way infringements or anything like
No,
that?
no, they're clear right now. And just a point of information, the council did approve the digital sign ordinance. So that hopefully will take that burden off your shoulders in the future, unless they want variances to that. So, I'm sure Roger would never ask, but.
Nope, I'm sure.
We always do things appropriately.
So, looking down the road, so maybe if this is approved, and this will have to come back, is that area that's left for the digital sign in compliance with the ordinance as passed?
Well, the maximum size of the digital sign, as stated in the ordinance, is 32 square feet. So I'm sure Roger could easily accommodate 32.
I believe that's what that is, it's 4 bay.
So yes, yes.
Okay, so it technically wouldn't be necessary to come back to us.
No,
if we
not to
approve that.
enlarge the posts, separate them or anything else. The way he's got it, he's incorporated the maximum size sign, he could put 32 square feet or less in there if he wanted to with the existing, with the proposed structure.
Mhm.
I believe that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and we're engineering, so handles all that space as well.
So if we put that in there, do we have any sightline issues once we put an electronic board in there?
It's a good question, but I don't believe we do, because you can see right here, actually the current sign right now, to be honest with you, has more of a sightline issue.
Can we see the site plan? This is going in the same location as the
Yes.
existing sign.
Don't tear the old one out.
And the existing sign is actually lower and probably does more to block
your
sight
vision.
distance than the proposed sign.
I understand that, but you've got a hole there right now. But if you put in a digital board, that hole goes away.
Well, it does, but it's still got 4 foot 6 inches. So if you're sitting in a car, you're still gonna be able to see under. Having said that,
Here's the, do you know what that height is?
Here's the existing sign right here. You can see that's no more than 4 feet right there.
yeah,
So looking at the existing
But
sign,
it
and the
sets
distance
back,
between the ground and the base of the sign, it's not gonna be any less than that on the new sign.
it sets back so far anyway,
Good question.
you have to pull up substantially. I mean, I would think you probably have to pull 2 or 3 cars at least and stack them before you have an issue.
That's a fully signalized intersection. So
That's true.
site, you really won't ever be looking, that won't really be a direction you're looking as a driver,
That's correct.
I don't think.
Even if it weren't signalized, you wouldn't be looking to the right to turn right, you'd be looking to the left.
Right. Your line of sight goes back about 8 or 10 cars, even if it is in the way, which it may not be. So the variance right now is height and style, because it kind of sort of
Call
doesn't,
it a pole sign.
yeah, it kind of doesn't really meet a monument sign definition.
Other questions, gentlemen? Entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion concerning case 7-2014 People's Bank, 1066 Hebron Road, we grant variance to ordinance 1187.09, 2B2, and 1187.09, 2B3, to replace an existing monument sign.
Is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Azalea,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe.
Yes.
Mr. Groff.
There's 1 week appeal period, Roger, and at the end of that 1 week, I can come in and request
question.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Lynn, can you handle that?
So we gotta have this, this
Thank you.
off the table and done.
Here's that one.
Okay. Are there any reports from the officials? Nope. Okay. Any miscellaneous?
Have we been collecting money from the absent?
Oh, we remember at the time Jim's not here?
But Rick is not here to collect it.
I mean, he's gonna have more than.
Collector's never.
I'm sorry, folks, December's rapidly approaching. We need more money in the kitty.
Is there like a carrier or a holder of the money or something?
Who's the treasurer?
Jim.
Rich.
Rich?
Or Rich
Okay.
is, oh yeah.
We can-
100% up there. You get the money out.
We'll
It's in
take
the
it.
safe.
Trust us.
I've got a really good attendance record going for a long
Video.
time.
What is it, Jim? What's the fee when you miss a meeting?
$20.
Whoa. Mine
Get him
did.
to cover yours.
What is it, $2, $3?
I gave him $3.
$3?
I was in New York, so I didn't really feel bad.
I'm sure it wasn't Las Vegas.
There's 3, I missed one a while back.
All right.
No
Now,
one
we are
caught
gonna have to
you.
charge
What?
Mr. Day.
No one caught you.
I'm honest.
All right. Any miscellaneous?
Nothing. We have our fingers crossed. I don't think we've got anything else so far. We shouldn't talk about it. Yeah, you guys have had some incredibly difficult cases. You did an excellent job.
All right, then the most important, adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
That was quick. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Rosanna, Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Wong.
Yes.
I'd like to thank Becky for recording the meeting tonight.
Movie.
Yeah.
It's about movie night.
It's a look at the movie.
Full feature.
Yeah.
Rated PG.
Wait till it's roll. Thank you, Dave.
Mhm.